Well, we're truly learning so much today and we're hungry for more. So we found a new place where you can explore the history of food and drink culture. With me, founder and executive director of the Museum of Food and Culture, Rachel Woe. Did I say that correctly, Rachel?
It's Wah. It's
Wah.
like how
Okay.
you fall down the stairs. I always say.
Okay.
Wah. Yeah.
Wah. I will remember that.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. We were all curious as to this museum and why it got created, a food museum. Tell me about it.
Yes, so I'm the founder and executive director, so this is my baby. And this really came about because I was really curious about food, and in my family and community, food has always been such a touchstone for gathering, for learning about each other, for connecting with one another.
Yep.
And as I kind of went through my studies, I started learning more about the nuances of culture, how food and food practices look different places, and then really also how like food touches on so many issues of our time and the pressing issues, whether it's environmental justice or systemic racism. Like, you can learn about those topics through food. And it was actually, I was working on this dystopian play that my friend wrote in college. It's the most college-y story I can tell. And I remember thinking, why isn't there a place that you can learn about food, and every question that you have about food is something that we interact with on a daily basis in so many different ways.
That is so interesting. And when you think about it, food really is a big part of our lives every single day. Well, talk about some of the programs that you have in the museum.
Yes, we have been doing a variety of things. We got started right before the COVID-19 pandemic, which was an adventure in and of itself. And recently we've been working more on kind of pop-up exhibits and things in the virtual space, and then also partnering with schools. And so right now we have a 5 Cool Things Friday email newsletter going out, which is 5 interesting things about food, history, and culture that I curate and send directly to your inbox. We have a Cooking Through Cultural Heritage newsletter that we do for schools, focused on the Cultural Heritage Month. This month is Arab American Heritage Month, and we're doing Baba Ganoush to encourage parents to really cook with their kids and think about the significance of the foods that they're eating at home and in the school environment, and to try something new. I
think that's a great idea.
Of new stuff. Yeah.
We need to cook more with the kiddos and involve them more. Now, you sent us this thought in your notes when we were going through those, and April is National Stress Awareness Month, and we wanted to get into that because these are things that we can do, and our approach to food actually helps with stress.
Yes.
So we can incorporate that. How can we?
Yes. So food has always been kind of that touch point for me for thinking about mindfulness, because it is something that you really need to be present for, whether, like, especially when you're cooking or when you're eating, and kind of all of the different sensory information helps you stay in the present. If you're, smelling a tomato sauce that you're making, or even just like your morning coffee, you can really ground yourself in the present. And so we've done a couple different workshops focused on mindfulness and more mindful eating and cooking, just to really ground yourself in the presence and reduce some of that stress. Get out of your head. Stop thinking about what you still need to do on your to-do list.
What a different approach, but I absolutely love it. Now, there is mindfulness in Sourdough Starter.
Yes.
Sourdough Starter's tricky too, by the way. You have to leave it like several days, and I remember that process, but why is that? Why Sourdough Starter?
Oh, yes. So that was one of the programs that we did, and I really loved this because it came about from the COVID-19 pandemic, and everybody was making sourdough. And it became something that was kind of a daily check-in for people. They would, walk through their kitchen and see the sourdough starter and how it was progressing, and they could see the bubbles as the bacteria were kind of growing. And it really just helped them ground in the present moment and kind of forget the pandemic for a couple seconds, which was very needed. And there's so much like rich smell and kind of visuals that you can see with the sourdough. And so we found this to be a really fun thing. So we ended up creating a workshop that was all about mindfulness and Sourdough Starter. And we had people baking bread virtually at the time.
Oh my gosh, so cool, because we were at home looking for cool things to do. Well, on your website, we can each take a food personality quiz. That sounds like a lot of fun. What can you share about the quiz, and what can it tell you?
Yes, so this is our newest thing. We actually just launched on Monday, so I'm very excited about
I'm curious, yeah.
So the food personality quiz really came about from basically every time I tell people that I work in kind of this food space, people tell me their food stories. And that is their food stories about their travels or about a festival they went to, their grandmother's recipe. There are kind of all of these different things that will come up. And it really tells a lot about their values and what they think about when it comes to food. And so I saw this, this kind of opportunity to really help people hone in on the values and then also to think about the challenges that come with that.
Yeah.
Because there are challenges, whether if you're, for example, an adventurer, if you like to travel and you like to eat new foods when you're in other places, well, you're not traveling all the time. So how do you still keep that sense of adventure and excitement and wonder in your day-to-day life? And that is something that we really want the museum to help with.
I think the concept is super cool, and I want to do the quiz and see what kind of food I am.
Yes,
There's a few in mind. Thank you so much for being with us today. Such a neat concept, and you can visit the Museum of Food and Culture and sign up for a program. Also, go online and take your food personality quiz, museumoffoodandculture.org.